Good evening, everyone, and welcome to what I think is the 164th episode of Book of Hours, but I know I did the wrong name on my save files, so I'm kind of going off of a few other file labels. It's Monday, which means that I've had a full week to forget everything that's going on in the game. However, I do notice that we are crossing from night to day, so we've got a full day ahead of us. I do remember that we opened up a new room, so we've got the catacombs. I think we were figuring out whether or not the honeyed forbidding was an option available for me, but we had the sealed vault, two sealed vaults with knock, which I know we can do. We can definitely go into the crystallized chamber. I'm not so sure about the perilous path. And then I believe we had... I think we finished off the lessons that I needed, but I also think we have a few obvious steps for reading. So I'm sort of rebuilding my notes from having a bunch of papers around for me back to a tablet, but I don't know, some of the fun's going to be in the discovery, I think. So let's... Okay, we're carrying on the solace. Yeah, let's see where we can go. I think I'm going to prioritize the books at the start, and then we'll see what the next steps will be. Although I will be completely honest, I do think there can be some logic behind trying to open up the crystallized chamber. Okay, so when it comes to books, we've got the Encircling Tantra, which is a 6 scale, and then we've got the Origins of Hours. Now this is going to give me Sacra Lamea, which is one that is reasonably high. So I think probably the first thing I want to do here is read the Encircling Tantra, for the simple reason that it's unlikely that we're going to run into a situation where I suddenly wake up and say, oh, you know, I don't have the lessons in time for the season. Or at the end of the season. Again, I'm not too fussed about Numa, but it's nice to just sort of be prepared on the odd chance that something goes the other way. So we will definitely read that. My best bet really is just to focus on... I don't want to give up too much. Okay, so Inks of Power is an easy option there. Pentiments and Precursors brings me up to 5, so I'm slightly inclined to do it this way. Now, if I want, I can use my health. I was wondering if there might be some sense in me using one of the others. Now, you know what? The health is fine in this case. And that will give me Horns and Ivory, so that's a pretty straightforward one for us to carry through. Now, what I can also do here is I can think a little bit about Horns and Ivories and how I'm going to level that up. So we've got... knock and scale. So what I'll do here is I'll just set that shaft aside to make sure that I don't have anything, that I do have something that I can use to move it up. Now, how about let's take a minute here. I'm going to ask the what if about the honeyed forbidding. So I think probably the, when it comes to Mrs. Kill and the gardener, they're more or less, or the orchard keeper, I think they're more or less the same. So let's see here. We've got all right, so I've got one for Mrs. K. I guess when it comes down to it, Storm's the best that we've got right now. I think there's going to be some ways that we can improve that, but let's deal with the world as it currently is. So after that, let's say the mop. Now, I think that there are some other things that I can do to improve that, but right now I want to just sort of work with some basics. From there, we would use the core. I'm sorry, I seem to be having some difficulty linking my device. Alright. Let's do heart, so that brings us up to 8. We're looking for 14 in total. Okay, so we've got Mrs. Kill, we've got the Storm for a memory, we've got the Mop and Bucket for heart, we've got Core for the element of the soul. So at this point we would want drink and food. So that's an interesting question in terms of how I think I'm going to pull that off. The best bet's probably just to take a quick look around. Yeah, so these are all good for one. I suppose maybe I would want to take a look at it poured out. We have a lot of things that are good for giving me one heart. The flushed Mommet is one example of something where I might be able to get away with a little bit more. The problem with this is that they're harder for me to make. So this would wind up be replacing the mop. So in this case, I get another 2 heart, which is not bad. But given that, 14 we know isn't the highest that I need to go up against, I am also a little reluctant to to give up too much early on. Now the Ruby-Wise Ruin, that is good for 2. I think that's as good as I'm going to get, to be honest. Okay, so if we have 2... Yeah, now I'm remembering why I was reluctant to do this. So I can get up to 10, and I don't think there's any kind of 5 heart food item. So I'm definitely going to need to make some tough choices if I want to hang on to... Well, the canned ham's a good start, actually. Canned ham is renewable. Okay, so... So we're at 12 now. I don't know. The problem at the moment is I'm short. So I guess the interesting thing for me is that when I take a look at this current organization here, so we've got Mrs. Kill for 1, we've got a Storm, which is worth 4, we've got a Mop, which is worth 1, Core, which is worth 2, Drink, which is worth 2, and Food, which is worth 2. For a lot of the other cases, we tend to have something else that we can sort of pull out at the last minute to... make this really sing. So like the Ruby-Wise Ruin will eventually turn into something like the Sacrament Calcite, I think it is, which is good for 6 Grail. And if I'm completely honest, I actually do think that Heart gets a bit less as far as the items go. So it may be that I do actually need to press the Mommets into service. At which point, maybe what I need to really think about is how do I effectively work with the Pale Mommet. Let's actually take a minute and sort that out right now. So I think this doesn't really count as fabric anymore. This counts as a tool. So I'd have to use this at a bench that... Well, it can be a bench that sort of takes anything, but I suppose what I would be looking for here would be resurgences and emergences. So that would be a mothy bench. Nope, that won't do it. I don't think this one covers it. Yeah. Okay. So I suppose my next best would be... I mean, a desk is an option here. So if we take Natan's desk with resurgences and emergences, and if I took a Pale Mommet and put it in there... So for the sake of the argument, let's add air. Oh, that's right, I can't add Arab. So we'll add Trist just so we can see what's going on. So to get a flushed Mommet, I would need 15 Grail. Well, that's not a hardship because Resurgences and Emergences already gives me Grail. So if we put this in at Ava's desk... All right, so I mean, yeah, I don't know. Flesh Mommet's not that hard to make, I guess. Fabric is a little harder to come by, but again, not impossible. So if I guess I'll put it to you this way. Let's imagine for a minute here that I got over my my concerns in terms of let's say I got over my my worries about the Mommet. So that would be worth 3 hearts. So Mrs. Kill's still 1, Storm's still 4, so 5, so now we're up to 8. The core will take us to 10. At which point, yeah, okay, so the drink takes us to 12, and the food takes us to 14. Okay, so here's... I think I'm actually a little more willing to go down this path the more that I think about it. The one thing I would like to arrange, though, is a replacement Ruby-wise Ruin. So that might be something I can do with Desires and Dissolutions. Indeed I can. And that... actually, it just requires a flower. And any flower will do in this case. So, do I have an abundance of a particular kind? I don't think Ava's Locks counts as a flower. Oh, it does! Okay. Yeah, I'm actually starting to like where this goes. Although I guess I did just make life difficult for myself. Well, we'll still bring Mrs. Kill in, so speak with Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. Let's use our whisk to earn some money. Help with letters. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There is no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. And then I do also need to work out a... I do also need to work out a storm for myself, although I suppose the first thing I should do is see what the weather is, because if it winds up being a storm on its own, there's no real problem. It's a little bit of a rocky way to start the session, but I'm not too upset with where this all wound up. Okay, assistance from Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. So let's load her up with the improvements that we're going for. We're not going to go with the Mommet quite yet. We'll get the basics down first. Mostly just this is the same idea where if I carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This is the same idea here where if I blow this for one reason or another, it's easier for me to say, okay, well, I lost the core, but that's not too bad, as opposed to, you know, giving up, let's say, a Ruby-wise Ruin or a Mommet or something like that, and finding out, oh, okay, actually, I can't use Mrs. Kill for the original plan. But we can get everything that we need in place right now. So we're getting the storm for the memory. My assistants and I are both a little merrier. We've got the core already. Yeah, well, it's pretty much consumables at this point. So we'll start with the ham. I can offer my assistants something to eat. This will also increase their aspect. It's also just friendly. The thread parts, the weave is empty, the skies cry out. Suppose the other thing I should take a look at is maybe what some of the other items Mrs. Kill could use were. I think there was a change, I think, in terms of being able to use fabric. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters to the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. here we'll spend a little bit of money just to bring our whist back. I may reserve the option to bring my Arab back as well. Sustenance has boosted their aspects appropriately. So here we'll take the storm. Talk about the weather, more useful than one might expect, especially in Britain. And so she will take element of the soul, beverage, fabric, and fiber. Yes, okay. So memory. So actually the funny thing here is I could have given her the Frithweft as well. Or in fact, the Swaddled Thunder. So the Swaddled Thunder is kind of an interesting case here because I can make that through music. But we're more or less fixed on our path right now, and I'm okay with what we're giving up. So I may have to do some work on my own account as far as the leveling up Horns and Ivories goes, but we'll worry about that later. Okay. So far, so good. We may have a little bit more summer than I appreciated. So I might have been able to be a little more bold with what I wanted to do. Okay, so we've got Mrs. Kill, we've got the storm, we've got the core. So the drink will bring us up to 11. Oh, we've also got the food. Let me just double check that I've got this right here. Okay, so Mrs. Kill for 1, the storm for 4, the food for 2, and then we've already put the core in, I believe. So 1, 5, 7, 9. Okay. So Fleshed Marmot brings us 3, which brings us up to 12, and the drink brings us 2, which brings us up to 14. Okay. I know I'm sounding a little paranoid about this, but I am giving up something valuable to me, so let's go for it. Proffer a device. I can lend my assistant something to help increasing their abilities. This is a device, a one-use tool, so you won't get it back. I do like the sound of the rain. The Encircling Tantra. The explorer and entrepreneur T. Everett Duplantis once attempted to plunder the temple where this text was held. His fate is recorded in an appendix. The Encircling Tantra speaks of the Serpent Gate, that hungry portal sometimes known as the Spider's Door, which is sacred to the Mother of Ants, through which the great hooded princes pass. The Tantra includes an invocation, but cautions helpfully that the invocation is of insufficient power to reach the Serpent Gate from the Hunter's Gate. A road which has no destination is itself a destination, it adds helpfully. So for that we get Fear. That works rather well for our ability to level things up. 1 lesson for Horns and Ivories. So what we're going to want to do here, assuming that I don't use Restore My Health, we already have the Fear. We're eventually going to level this up to level 4, so we'll move that in possession now. So one option I've got already is the Earth Sign. That's easy for me to get back as well. The challenge is the last of the either the scale or the knock. And the easier thing for me to do right now is actually just bring in a knock. It's not like I have that much use for the alternative. Like, or sorry, I don't have sorry, I'm thinking, I think things and then I say something completely different from what I mean. But in this case here, for the skill, I don't really have that many better uses for my Tristan Fett right now. In fact, we're a little short in terms of just things for me to do with all of my various elements of the soul. So that makes life a little bit easier for me as far as picking my tasks. So one thing we'll do here is we'll take Advice on Containment. because that gives me a pattern that's very easy for me to deal with. That's my third memory. We use the shaft and then we're good to go. And I basically get to do that 2 more times with the Fet and the Trisk. One of those will be to bring back the Earth Sign. The bigger question here is what I do with my Metal, my Faust, and my Whist. And what I'm thinking of doing here is I might want to try and employ a few of these things towards you know, building the replacements that I wanted. So for instance, one thing I might try here, because I was thinking about this a little bit, we've got Resurgences and Emergences, which already gives me a certain degree of Grail, but given that I'm already trying to level up the Pale Mommet, I should just be able to throw this in here, and then... Oh. Right, sorry, we needed 15. I was... I got a little bit ahead of myself here. So yes, I do in fact need the Arab for that. Well, that's fine, because we can get that back at the Sweet Bones. Yeah, so I actually don't have as good of a... Well, I suppose I could use the Tryst to generate like a Satisfaction or something like that too. Okay. I think I'm actually going to stay put for a little bit. I'm definitely not going to be... Well, if I'm cycling at the Sweet Bones, it's going to be in a different form. But I think I'm actually going to craft some things that we'll find useful for the next couple of days. So, first of all, let's bring back the Arab. I might as well bring back the higher level one. I don't think it'll really make a difference here, but it's a nice to have. Oh, hang on. I wasn't even thinking. I've got the rain. That actually covers me for my Resurgences and Emergences. I don't know why I didn't... I was thinking, is like, shouldn't I have a Grail memory? And the answer is I do. So just leave a doll out in the rain and you get a flushed mod. So a little bit of a bummer, just because, you know, I don't have much. I guess what I can do is make another Ruby-wise Ruin now that I think of it. Now, for the Sacrament Ascite, one of the things that I will need for that would be the Glassfinger Toxin. That one's not too hard to make if we have... Was it Edict's Liminal? Let's try the Fet just to be sure. Yes, but we need a liquid. So any liquid will do. This, I think I was actually going to wind up using... Actually, also we would need another point of knock, so ideally it would be some kind of knock liquid. Or alternatively, we have a knock memory of some kind. I'm going to let the day run by for a little bit longer. Alright, this device has boosted their aspects appropriately. So from here, we will give her the Ruby-wise Ruin. A nice drop. I can offer my assistant something to drink. I'll be honest, I could use a couple more memories right now, but let's see what we can do here. So I'm going to take the Inks of Containment, and with that, I add some Blue Crown. I might want to be a little bit careful, because I seem to remember I held off... Actually, no, sorry, we just need... What we actually need is just a flower. So I suppose the... I wonder if... I'm trying to remember if there is an altar that will take a tool. Uh-huh. Oh, right, but I don't have a winter tool. That was almost clever. Okay, so my follow-up would be, I also have the option of using a glass of water or paint. But I don't think I need to go that crazy about it. Oh right, and it doesn't take flowers. Okay, yeah, we don't need to get too clever with it, but actually, I suppose what I really needed was just something that would accept a second element of the soul, but that kind of feels bad to give up a second whist just for that. Okay, so we are going to make Solomon's preparation here. We are on our way to making another Ruby-wise ruin, so I feel okay about that. Now let's also take a minute here. This is really not a bad time for exploration. So we've got our forge. And interestingly enough, we really have not put a whole lot into seeing what we can do with the forge. So I suppose one of the first things I can do is try and take the iotic essence. There we go. Orpiment Exultant. Now that is actually helpful in a couple of ways, but I'm going to resist the urge to do too much with that. I could use a good forge for the experimentation here. Whiskey if I have to, but I feel like the Gervanite should be a better option here. Nope, that's pure knock. That doesn't get me up to 15. This does, although it's quite limited in terms of what other things we can include. Although it might be interesting to see... Okay. You'd think changing metals would be a transformation thing, but apparently not. We may also just have all of the transformations. I do think it's telling. So actually what we've got here, out of the transformations, so we've got the forge side taken care of. We apparently don't have a level 5. That's so weird that I don't have a basic level moth for this. Let's actually take a quick second at the dispensary. Really? So Refulgan is the... Interesting. So the first thing I would imagine is add a memory just to see. Okay, so it doesn't do a whole lot. So yeah, the challenge that we run into now is to think about, like, what are some of the things that we might want to put in. So obviously we've got the chimeric larva, but that's the 15, and there's a bunch of other 15s that we've got here. It almost makes me wonder if I should be trying more lantern things. I'm actually trying to... I'm trying to think if there's something meaningful that I can put in with a moth. In fairness, it would be a little bit easier... I guess at this point, if I'm looking for level 10 recipes, I just need to bring certain types in. I guess I don't have the pale mommet anymore. I feel like an egg should be something that I can put in there. But I don't think I have a moth. Well, I don't know. Would you want your kitchen staff to... Oh, hang on. Right. Chandlery is probably the reason why there's so many recipes there. Well, I can still make something of that, though. So let's just grab the honey, grab the fat. And it will allow me to add a flower. So I think probably I should just go, so Aglaophotis. Interesting. So that's not sufficient for... Oh, it is, but it doesn't, it's not one of these... Oh, that's really interesting. Huh. Alright, this is definitely one that I want to sort of have a think about. I can try something on the on the lantern side, but that's considerably more complicated than I was originally signing up for. And I have used up a good slot here. Okay, I know I'm limited in terms of time, so let's see what are some of my immediate tasks that I can take care of. So again, I still want to keep this feticide so that I can get a memory for leveling up horns and ivories. The core, Fost, and Whist. I would, if I can, like to get the glass finger toxin. But what's my clever... Oh, actually, I think I have an idea. Moth Orchid's a little high for me to give up, but I suppose it's better than some of the alternatives. You know, Serpentinite's actually kind of funny, but I don't think it'll work at the dispensary. Yeah, so the rest of it is just a little too valuable, in my opinion. But then there's the question, what am I using it for? I suppose in this case we would add the core. But then there's also the question, what liquid do I give up? So I guess I'll have to pour a glass of water. Okay. We'll do that. Pour out. Now the other option that I have, and I might have put myself into a tough spot to do this. I can try and hatch the egg, although Transformations and Liberations is really the better one for that. Although, now that I think of it, if it's Forge and Lantern, I guess it's really only the... Well, this doesn't take eggs, so... Oh, alright. I actually have a much easier answer for getting my glass finger. Well, unless I want to use the FET here. No, we've already got the FET spoken for. Brew a bright and lethal knock toxin. Okay. I still need to figure out what I'm doing with the metal, the Fost, and the Whist. But that will be something that we work on Wednesday, I think. The aim here was really just to try and think about some of the areas that I'm going to want to go next. So I'm loading up on the knock stuff just because I have a feeling that I'm going to be using Reverend Timothy quite a bit. We already know we're getting into the honeyed forbidding. I should maybe have also seen if I could do something with the perilous path, but that would be... well, actually, with the summer, we still probably have some time. I'll take a look. I'm not... I feel like there are other things I can do with that time. But yeah, most of this has been set up just so that I can get through these vaults a little bit faster. And then, of course, as you can see with the Solomon's preparation, I'm also getting ready to bring Mr. Kill in. But we'll do that maybe tomorrow, I think. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.